There was a girl called Sophia, a charming young woman with sparkling eyes and a captivating smile. She was deeply in love with a boy called Lucas. Lucas was a kind, hardworking and loving man, and the two shared a special connection from the moment they met. After dating for some time, Sophia and Lucas decided to take the next step in their relationship and get married. They were both overjoyed and eager to start their lives together. However, there was one obstacle standing in the way of their happiness: Lucas' mother, a woman called Beatriz. Beatriz was an extremely controlling and manipulative person. She couldn't bear the thought of her only son, Lucas, leaving her to marry Sophia. Beatriz saw their relationship as a threat to her authority and control over Lucas' life. From the moment she learned of her son's wedding plans, Beatriz did everything she could to sabotage their relationship. She tried to plant doubts in Lucas' mind about Sophia, spreading gossip and making up lies about her. Beatriz also tried to convince Lucas that he was making a terrible mistake by marrying so young. Despite all Beatriz's attempts to break them up, the love between Sophia and Lucas was too strong to be broken. They faced all the challenges together, supporting each other and remaining firm in their decision to marry. However, Beatriz's determination to ruin her son's marriage only grew stronger every day. She was willing to go to extreme lengths to stop the wedding, and her threatening presence hung over their relationship like a shadow. Despite all Beatriz's bitterness and her attempts to sabotage their relationship, Lucas still had a glimmer of hope that his mother would change her mind and accept Sophia. He loved his mother deeply and desperately wanted her to find happiness in her relationship with Sophia. On the other hand, Sophia had no illusions about Beatriz. From the moment she met her, she never felt welcome or accepted by her. She could clearly see Beatriz's cruelty and manipulation and didn't believe that she would change so easily. Despite her kindness and patience, Sophia knew she couldn't expect Beatriz to accept her relationship with Lucas with open arms. The tension between Sophia, Lucas, and Beatriz continued to grow as the wedding day approached. While Lucas tried desperately to mediate between his mother and his fiancée, Sophia became increasingly frustrated with the situation. She wondered if Lucas' love for his mother would ever be strong enough to overcome all the difficulties they were facing. As the wedding day approached, Lucas and Sophia immersed themselves in preparations for their new life together. They dreamed about their house, discussed the honeymoon location and planned the details of the ceremony. However, in the midst of all this excitement, Lucas was faced with a difficult question. His mother, Beatriz, was a widow and he was her only companion. Lucas felt a strong sense of responsibility towards her, especially knowing that she would face loneliness when he moved out to start his married life. He pondered this for some time, trying to find a solution that would be good for everyone. Finally, one day, during a conversation with Sophia about their future plans, Lucas hesitated for a moment and asked cautiously, "Sophia, what do you think of the idea of my mother coming to live with us after the wedding?" Sophia was instantly nervous at the suggestion. She was faced with a complicated situation. On the one hand, she wanted to support Lucas and understood his concern about his mother's loneliness. On the other hand, the idea of having Beatriz live with them right at the beginning of their marriage made her anxious and uncomfortable. She took a deep breath before answering, trying to choose her words carefully. "Lucas, I understand that you care about your mother, and I admire your dedication to her. But the truth is that the idea of having your mother live with us makes me a little nervous. We both need our space as a couple, and having someone else live with us could complicate things." Lucas looked at Sophia with a pleading expression in his eyes, trying to make her understand how important it was for him to take care of his mother. He explained that Beatriz was his only living family and that he couldn't bear to see her alone and unhappy after the wedding. Lucas tried to convince Sophia that they could make it work, that Beatriz could become a positive part of their lives and that, in time, they could even develop a close relationship with her. "Please, Sophia," Lucas begged, saying that he knew it might not be easy, but that he really wants his mother to be part of their life story. And he proposed that they try to make it work. He went on to say, who knows, maybe in time they'll even become friends. claiming that his mother isn't bad, and that her behavior is just her own way of dealing with things. Sophia felt a squeeze in her heart when she saw the sincerity in Lucas' eyes. She knew how much his mother meant to him and couldn't bear the thought of making him unhappy. Feeling sorry for Lucas and wanting to make their relationship work, Sophia finally gave in, agreeing to have Beatrice live with them after the wedding. However, even as she made this promise, Sophia knew in her heart that it wouldn't be easy. She was worried about the tensions and conflicts that could arise between her and Beatrice, and feared that this could put extra pressure on her relationship with Lucas. Lucas and Sophia's wedding day finally arrived, and it was full of joy and celebration. The ceremony venue was decorated with stunning flowers, and the air was filled with anticipation and love. As the time for the ceremony drew closer, guests began to arrive, eager to witness the couple's union. Sophia was radiant in her wedding dress, surrounded by the affection and support of her family and friends. However, there was one notable absence among the guests, Beatrice. Sophia had assumed that her mother-in-law would not attend the wedding, especially after the cruel words she had uttered about not being able to bear to see her son get married. However, to everyone's surprise and shock, Beatrice turned up unexpectedly at the last moment. What perplexed everyone was not just Beatrice's presence, but her choice of dress. She was wearing a stunning white dress, very similar to Sophia's. It seemed that Beatrice was trying to outshine the bride and take center stage for herself. A murmur of shock went through the crowd when Beatrice entered the ceremony, and Sophia couldn't help but feel a mixture of indignation and discontent. Beatrice's lack of sensitivity and respect made it clear to everyone present how determined she was to make Sophia and Lucas' lives more difficult. Sophia struggled to contain her emotions in the face of this blatant provocation, but her displeasure and disappointment were evident on her face. She wondered how her new married life could begin amid such tension and disrespect. After Beatrice's unpleasant surprise at the wedding, the party continued, albeit in a strange and tense atmosphere. Sophia tried to make the most of the rest of the day, but her mind was filled with worries about the future of her relationship with Lucas. Soon after the party, the newlyweds left for their honeymoon. Sophia was looking forward to a few days of peace and happiness with Lucas. They chose a luxurious hotel overlooking the sea, where they planned to spend 10 romantic days together. However, on the 5th day of their honeymoon, Lucas received an unexpected call. It was his mother, Beatrice, on the other end of the line, in a dramatic, trembling voice, saying that she was ill with a fever. She begged Lucas to come home and look after her, saying that there was no one else to help her. Lucas was visibly worried and anxious when he heard his mother's voice. He immediately started packing, telling Sophia that they needed to get home as soon as possible. Sophia, incredulous at the situation, felt an overwhelming mix of emotions. She couldn't believe that Beatrice was interfering even in their honeymoon and putting Lucas in such a difficult position. With tears in her eyes, Sophia retreated to the bathroom, where she let out a sob of frustration and sadness. She looked at her reflection in the mirror, realizing clearly for the first time how determined Beatrice was in her intentions to interfere and damage her relationship with Lucas. Lucas and Sophia returned home after answering Beatrice's call, but to Sophia's surprise, when they arrived, Beatrice wasn't as bad as she had said on the phone. This came as no surprise to Sophia, who was already familiar with her mother-in-law's antics. Despite their frustration, they welcomed Beatrice back into the house, as it was the only place she had. The next few days were challenging. Living with Beatrice was not easy. She tried to control every aspect of Lucas' life, while constantly underestimating and criticizing Sophia. Sophia felt increasingly exhausted and discouraged by the situation. There were days when she would rather spend more time anywhere else than come home and face the oppressive presence of her mother-in-law. One day, Lucas noticed Sophia's emotional state and decided to do something special to cheer her up. He asked Beatrice to go out and buy something for him, keeping her occupied for a few hours. In the meantime, he filled the house with red heart-shaped balloons, scattered rose petals on the floor and bought a basket of chocolates. When Sophia arrived home after another exhausting day at work, she was surprised to see the house decorated so beautifully. Her eyes filled with tears of happiness as she realized what Lucas had prepared for her. They embraced warmly, enjoying the moment of tenderness and genuine love. However, their happiness was interrupted when Beatrice arrived home. Her expression of contentment quickly turned to anger when she realized the surprise Lucas had prepared for Sophia. She saw it as a threat to her control over Lucas and proof that they were closer than ever. Beatrice, unhappy with the increasingly strong bond between Lucas and Sophia, decided to find a way to separate them. She remembered a distant friend who knew many types of herbs and decided to visit her in search of a solution. Once there, Beatrice explained to her friend the situation she was facing and asked for her help. Beatrice's friend, aware of the situation, suggested an herb that could be used to cause gradual illness in those who ingested it. However, she warned Beatrice to be cautious and to administer the herb gradually, in small quantities in food or drink that Sophia consumed, in order to avoid arousing suspicion. Beatrice returned home very happy with the solution she had found. Her sudden joy aroused the curiosity of Sophia and Lucas, who noticed the change in her behavior. However, they had no idea what dark plans Beatrice was up to. Over the next few days, Beatrice began to get closer and closer to Sophia, showing herself to be friendly and helpful. She offered to help with all the household chores, accompanied Sophia on her daily activities, went shopping with her and even watched movies together. Sophia, unable to believe her eyes, was confused by her mother-in-law's sudden change of attitude. She began to think that perhaps Beatrice had finally realized how harmful her actions were and was trying to change. However, she had no idea of the real motives behind Beatrice's apparently friendly new attitude. As the days turned into weeks, Sophia gradually fell victim to Beatrice's poisonous plan. The herb added to the food Sophia ate began to have an effect, leaving her weaker and sicker. Sophia faced periods of intense exhaustion and malaise, and her health gradually deteriorated. Meanwhile, Beatrice watched the herb's effect on Sophia with a mixture of satisfaction and growing guilt. She watched her daughter-in-law become more and more debilitated, at the same time as the two of them grew closer. Beatrice was confused by her own feelings, struggling between achieving her goal of separating Sophia and Lucas and the growing affection she was developing for her daughter-in-law. One fine day, Sophia found some energy and decided to use it to do something special for her mother-in-law. Knowing that Beatrice wanted to visit Paris, Sophia had an idea. She went to a travel agency and bought 3 all-inclusive tickets to Paris in one of the best hotels in the city. When Beatrice returned from her walk, Sophia could hardly contain her excitement. She revealed the surprise to her mother-in-law, showing her the tickets and explaining that she had used all her savings to make Beatrice's dream come true. Beatrice was shocked to hear the news, unable to believe Sophia's generous gesture. With Sophia collapsed on the floor after her generous gesture of buying the tickets to Paris, Beatrice panicked. She wept bitterly, realizing how far she had gone with her sinister plan. Desperate, she started calling for help, and soon the neighbors came to her aid, calling an ambulance. Sophia was rushed to hospital, where she was treated in the emergency department. Meanwhile, Lucas, who had been warned by his mother, rushed to the hospital with tears streaming down his worried face. Beatrice, seeing her son's suffering, bitterly regretted her actions and left the hospital in the direction of her distant friend's house. When she got there, Beatrice begged her friend with tears in her eyes to find something that would take the edge off the herb she had given Sophia. However, to Beatrice's surprise, her friend looked at her with a look of joy and explained that the herb didn't have the power to make anyone ill, it was just a calming herb. Beatrice was perplexed and asked her friend why she was smiling in such a serious situation. Her friend explained that she knew Beatrice would rethink her attitudes if she tried to get closer to her daughter-in-law and really get to know her. However, she couldn't explain how Sophia had become weak and ill. While Beatrice was still trying to process this information, she received a call from her son, Lucas. He explained with joy in his voice that, in fact, Sophia wasn't ill, she was pregnant. Beatrice's shock was palpable as she realized that her actions had not only failed, but had also put the lives of her daughter-in-law and her future grandchild at risk. Beatrice, after receiving the news that Sophia was pregnant, rushed to the hospital in desperation to find her daughter-in-law. When she got there, with tears in her eyes, she begged Sophia for forgiveness, explaining her entire plan and admitting her guilt. She said she would understand if Sophia never wanted to see her again after everything she had done. Sophia, surprised by Beatrice's sincere confession, was shocked to hear about the evil plan her mother-in-law had concocted. However, now that she was also going to be a mother, and seeing the true regret in Beatrice's eyes, Sophia found it in her heart to forgive. She hugged Beatrice with affection and compassion, saying that she understood that people make mistakes, but the important thing was to learn from them and move on. Sophia expressed her gratitude that Beatrice was willing to recognize her mistakes and change. Curious about what had motivated Beatrice to act so cruelly towards her, Sophia asked what had happened to make Beatrice so mean. Beatrice shared the painful story of her own experience with Lucas' grandmother, who treated her with contempt and tried to separate her from Lucas' father. This traumatic experience made Beatrice even more attached to Lucas and vowed to protect him at all costs, which led her to act in a selfish and controlling way towards Lucas' relationship with Sophia. Moved by Beatrice's story in her journey of redemption, Sophia expressed that although Lucas was her husband, in his heart there would always be a place reserved for Beatrice. She said that now, with the arrival of the baby, Beatrice would have another companion for her life. After this moment of understanding and forgiveness, Beatrice finally understood that her daughter-in-law was not to blame for what she had been through and became for Sophia the mother-in-law she never had. A new relationship based on love, understanding, and forgiveness began to form between them. This story teaches us that love and understanding can transcend even the most difficult relationships between daughter-in-law and mother-in-law. When we choose to cultivate empathy and forgiveness, we turn challenges into opportunities for growth and unity. Every gesture of kindness and compassion strengthens family ties, building a foundation of mutual respect and acceptance. May we be inspired by this journey of reconciliation and remember that, in the end, love always prevails, uniting hearts and homes with its transformative force.